In this podcast, I serve you OpenJDK evolutions and tips and tricks from Devoxx and JFall.
Give me a foo, give me a J, give me the friends of OpenJDK.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Foojay Podcast. Just like in the previous episode, I bring you conversations from two of Europe's premier Java conferences, Devoxx in Belgium and JFall in the Netherlands. At these conferences, I had the opportunity to speak with members of the Java community about topics ranging from the evolution of Java itself to mobile development, performance optimization, and even automotive security. My first guest is Johan Vos, a Java champion who takes us on a journey through Java's history, from porting Java to Linux in 1995 to his current work on bringing Java and JavaFX to mobile and embedded devices through the Java on Mobile project. Then we'll hear from Stefan Chin, author of The Definitive Guide to Modern Java Clients with JavaFX, who shares insights on building cross-platform client applications and reflects on how his daughter has followed in his footsteps to become a published author and technology educator. From JFall, Joseph Phillips joins us to discuss Java's evolution, the differences between REST and gRPC, and whether virtual threads have replaced the need for async implementations in modern Java applications. Next, François Martin walks us through the world of Java performance benchmarking with JMH, the Java Micro Benchmark Harness, and explains why it's so valuable for comparing different implementations and optimizing code. Wouter De Geus shares his inspiring journey from finance and mathematics into Java development and how his employer, the Dutch Tax Authority, supports open source contributions and the Java community. And finally, Roald Nefs demonstrates something truly unique, using Java and the foreign function and memory API to hack into automotive systems, revealing important security considerations for both hardware and software. Let's get started.
I'm Johan Vos, and why am I at Devoxx? Well, I'm part of the steering committee, so I have to be here anyhow. But I'm also interested in Java in general and in innovation in Java in particular, and then Devoxx is the place to be.
And you have a very long history in Java?
Actually, me and Java, we go back until from 1995 or so when Java was created, and it did not exist on Linux. And I was a big Linux fan, and I wanted to use Java for my PhD, but because there was no Java on Linux, we decided with a group of people, the Blackdown team, to port Java to Linux, and that's how I got started with Java.
You just fixed it. It was not there, and
well, it wasn't there. It wasn't easy to fix, but it was, I believe, the right thing to do, even though many people did not believe in it. At that time, Sun Microsystems was definitely not interested in Java on Linux, but history turned out to agree with us.
Was pretty critical.
Right.
So you say it was for your PhD, so you have been doing Java since you were still in school. Is that a bit frightening, or is that just relaxing that you're still using the same things?
Actually, I never looked at it like that, but yeah, you're probably right. Many people they do some career changes or they change technologies and so. And it's not that I'm religious about Java, but Java to me is a tool. It is a language to achieve something. So Java itself is not the goal, but I think that is also one of the reasons why I really use Java. And one of the key things that I remember from what James Gosling kept saying is Java is a blue-collar language. It is designed to help you to fix a problem, to do your job. It is not designed to be awarded as the most hip language or the most cool language. It won't get a prize for that. But the goal of Java is to help you to do whatever you want to do, and whatever you want to do can change, of course, but I think Java is always a good tool set, a good choice, a good way of programming.
Yeah, I tend to say that Java is boring, but boring in a good way. Java tomorrow will be able to do the same things as it's able to do today. your system will not be broken tomorrow because you're running on Java and something changed somewhere by someone else.
Exactly, and that has advantages and disadvantages. So I think, well, let's start with the disadvantage. So many people, people on social media often complain that Java is slow in adopting new things. There are other languages that are much faster in using new paradigms, new concepts, and so. And then many people say, "Hey, why doesn't this exist yet in Java?" But those things are often created in languages that are maybe 2 or 3 years old and that won't survive for 2 or 3 more years. Whereas in Java, which is now about 30 years old and still wants to survive for at least another 30 years, things are different.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why Java is so old already, why Java survived for so long, is that the people developing the JDK are not under pressure to take the latest great technologies, but they have to make sure that whatever is out there and whatever is gonna be released is of top quality. So the quality is much more important than being hip, and that often gives Java a dull image because it won't be the first to come out with a new concept, but it will be the one when it comes out with a concept, with an implementation of a new concept. It's extremely well tested. It's been tried in many different use cases, and especially very, very intelligent people, very smart people. The OpenJDK team is an incredible team, and those really think about how can we maintain this in the next 5, 10, 15 years, because that is the key question. If you have a critical project and you do that in Java, you want that the project is still working in the future.
And it's by coincidence that already running projects for a long time, like Panama, seem to now be used or usable for AI development. So it's not that was designed to be able to do that, like the FFM API and the memory access and stuff like that, running things on the GPU. They all now come at the right time. They are almost finished, or they are finished, and they are now available to be used for exactly what a lot of developers need.
True. It's indeed good that they are available now, because otherwise there would be Java would have a delay and a gap on other languages. But the work on Panama started very, very long time ago, because today it's AI that's really interested in using more foreign functions and foreign memory. But in the past and in the future, it are different things. There's always been the need for integrating Java with native languages and native memory, and the fact that it was always possible in Java, but with a price, CPU, GPU, copy, and so all took time and so. But there's always been a need for doing this in Java, and if the JDK team had rushed this, and it would have been there in the JDK 5 years ago, then it would probably be less good than it is now. So we are really lucky that there was no rush in delivering Panama, and today it's some parts of Panama are in GA, and those are really first-class Java components and ready to use.
You're one of the main maintainers of JavaFX, of OpenJDK. I always get confused with the naming. You're also working on Java on mobile. Can you give a bit of details of what's happening there? Or what is the idea behind this?
Yeah, the idea behind it, I think it's something that I've been interested, and something that intrigued me about Java from day one is that the right runs run anywhere. As a developer, you don't really care about the underlying operating system, and it's more a burden than a help. You want to write your code, and then you want to run it on all people's devices. And especially I'm not a computer scientist. I come from I'm an engineer, and And typically engineers just want things to work.
It's problems.
And they want to fix problems, and it has to work. And then if you write something and it works on someone's Linux machine, but then someone comes with a Windows and says, hey, this doesn't work for me, then that's a bummer. So the cross-platform and the right ones run anywhere of Java is always extremely important. And even in the beginning, in the early days of Java, one of the goals was to make sure that Java works on the Internet of Things and on the on network devices, on mobile phones, PDAs, set-top boxes, and so that's always been one of the goals, because there are so many people using those devices. So as a Java developer, you want your applications to work on those as well. Now, Java took a detour into enterprise, which turned out to be extremely lucrative from a financial point. That's where the money is, and follow the money, then you know where the investments are going. It's in the cloud and the server development. And I can understand that, but there is no technical reasons. There's no technical reason why Java cannot work on consumer devices, mobile, desktops, laptops, set-top boxes, Raspberry Pis, and other kinds of embedded devices. So technically, there's really no reason. And for developers, it would be really helpful if their applications work on not only in the cloud, not only on servers, but also on those devices that cheap everyone can use. Yeah. Cheap devices where hobbyists can create great things with. So that is not a financial decision, because if you want to program for the money, then you go to the cloud and the server. Yeah. But from a technical point, mobile embedded is really a home market for Java. So I want to make sure that Java runs first class on those devices as well. And that means, first of all, we need to make sure that the OpenJDK runs on mobile devices. And second, there needs to be a good UI toolkit for developers to create compelling user interfaces for those devices. And that means that we both need OpenJDK Mobile, which is the JDK for mobile devices, and OpenJFX, which is the repository where we specify the JavaFX specification and implementation. So that's why I'm working on both those projects.
As you brought Java to Linux one day, I can imagine that it's reachable, this goal, that you have a clear idea how this can be done.
Well, from a technical point, it's definitely reachable. I have to admit that when I started with Java on Linux, I didn't know why I was starting. It's just I had an end goal, which is I want to run this application. By the way, I had a Spark station running Linux, which made it even more complex. But in the end, it worked, and I had much less experience. I basically had no experience with Java at the time, because it was new, and I didn't know how hard it would be. Now, with Java on mobile, we've been working on this for a long time already, same as with JavaFX. And the difficulty is not the technical part. Writing the code is actually easy, but the difficulties are in the tooling. For example, take iOS. If you want to create an application and deploy it to the iPhone, you need to obey all the Apple rules. You need to upload it to the App Store. You need to sign it, notarization, and all those things. And those are things that Apple developers know very well, or learned to deal with it.
Yes.
But for Java developers, it's really boring and confusing. So the tools and extremely difficult, and it often changes between versions. So the hard part is not really the technical development, but everything around the whole dealing with the Apple ecosystem and so. And the other hard thing is the marketing of it, because Java is positioned so clearly as a server-side cloud enterprise language that it's really difficult to explain. Ironically, to explain that Java also works on the devices it was actually created for.
Yeah, and that's my pet project, is using Java in all other cases, not enterprise, but in home automation, on Raspberry Pis, and creating fun applications just as a pet project, where it's a perfect tool.
Yeah, and it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how comes there's not more attention for it? Because it works.
Yeah.
So many people should be using it, but it's still hard to get on the radar because I often talk to people and then I show them hello JavaFX world on an iPhone and I say, oh, I didn't know that you can do that. I've been doing this for 10 years now maybe, but people don't realize it. And granted, it's also not that polished as I wanted it to be. There's no full website. There's no DevRels talking about it because there's not really, I don't really have, to be honest, a business model behind it. We have the technology, but and that's cool, but we often need more.
And indeed, OpenJDK, OpenJFX, it's an open source project. Luckily, we have companies behind it who earn money out of it, like Oracle, Azure, Gluon, because you offer services and support and additional tools. Without those, it wouldn't be possible to maintain the open source and keep it evolving, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and that's a bit the difficult model, but it's the
only model?
Oh, I don't think it's the only model, and I don't think it's the best model. And actually, you already described a number of models because every company has a different approach. Oracle has a different approach than, for example, Azure. Both try to sell LTS support for the JDK, but Azure probably also provides more time and material projects, and so where Oracle is more into the licensing. But in both cases, it's actually you need a way to pay the engineers, the developers that are working on the OpenJDK,
the new features,
the new features and the maintainability, and so that costs money. But in the IT industry, people take it for granted that there's a JDK, and it's like almost nobody wants to pay for it. But the companies realize that that this costs money. So where does the money come from? And then you have Azure, Belsoft, Oracle, Amazon, Microsoft. They all have their own models to fund the development. And I think it's a bit a pity that there's no more direct funding because the people developing the OpenJDK and OpenJFX and all the other open source technologies, if they can be rewarded more directly instead of having to rely on a different department in their company, which provides the revenues, and then they are actually the cost. And that's, I don't think that's how it should be. But I'm honestly not the person who can solve this problem. I try to solve some technical things, but that's it.
And you not only solve the technical things, you also push them forward, like with OpenJDK on mobile. So that's great. What could the community do to help here?
I think there are a number of things. So first of all, the community being aware of that this happens and recognizing that this is an important thing and a useful thing, that's already really helpful, because the more people that say, oh yeah, Java on mobile is relevant, and JavaFX on the Raspberry Pi, it works and it's cool.
It works, I can confirm.
Definitely, and it really helps that you say that and that you show it and that you write about it in a book. And so spreading the word is an easy thing that doesn't cost too much time, and it's really helpful because it helped the image of Java being more than just a server-side cloud language. It shows that Java is really suited for those kinds of things. And then, of course, if you have, if you want to try out things and give feedback, that's always useful as well. And we're fortunate to have most of the Java on mobile and JavaFX users are very friendly, and they do understand that we don't have the same resources, the same amount of resources. We don't have the funding to work on Java on mobile and on the client that companies who work on Java on the server side have. So we can't at this moment have the same speed, the same level of, well, we try to have the same level of quality. That's something that I don't want to give in. But that's also why we move forward slower, because we don't have the same resources. So we do appreciate all the feedback, and we also do appreciate that developers understand that we don't have the same funding as the server cloud companies.
Stephen Chen. I work at Neo4j, which is a graph database company.
The thickest book on my bookshelf is from you. It's about JavaFX. How much are you still involved with that?
So we just updated the JavaFX book for Java 23, I believe. Maybe Java 24 is out now, but I mean we did
25, yeah.
25. we did update it fairly frequently, and it has become the definitive guide for building JavaFX applications and in general client applications in Java. It's kind of funny because we're here at the Devoxx conference, and the reason why I started coming to Devoxx is because I wrote the Pro JavaFX book together with Jim Weaver, Dean Iverson, Wei Chigao, and Johan Vos. And then we're here, 20 years later. And not only is it still the definitive book on JavaFX, this is still the definitive technology conference in Europe. So it's aged well.
It aged well. Did JavaFX age well? In your opinion?
So it's basically become the way you build client applications in Java, right? I mean, nobody's using AWT. Like occasionally you use Swing for certain sorts of applications, but if you're doing a modern application, you're using JavaFX.
Yeah.
And I think you could argue that a lot of people are using other languages or frameworks for doing UI development, but if you already have a Java application and you're doing something cross-platform, it's just a really good solution. And then Johan Vos, who I mentioned, actually has a mobile and embedded version of Java as well with his company Gluon. So I think, again, it gives you the best technology for doing that cross-platform development for UIs.
Okay. I also have to thank you for having a house full of 3D printers and Raspberry Pis, because you also inspired your daughter to become an author and a Java user. How do you look at her book? Are you a bit proud?
Yeah. So I think the reason why I'm here at Devoxx is obviously because, I'm going to give a presentation. This is a great conference. But really, I'm the plus one for my daughter. She's giving the keynote. Right?
How does that feel?
Stefan's like, okay, your daughter's coming. You can give a talk too, Steve. So it's nice to see the next generation coming up and being very successful with technology, doing amazing things. And I think we need more female role models in our industry where people can look up to aspiring developers and folks who are kind of leading technology and driving more things. So now she's the content chair for CNCF Kids Day. She's writing books on education and teaching people how to raise their kids and raise coders. And also a new book series she's going to talk about tomorrow for AI first development. So kind of how the next generation should be thinking about learning technology together with AI tools.
I spoke at AI for Devs also with the daughter of Jonathan Villa, who's even younger, and how she looks at AI. And I think for those young people, it's really a changing time with AI and how it influences how they go to school, how they learn, also how they learn for a job. So I think also for them, this will be a major shift.
Yeah, and schools aren't quite ready today, right? I mean, they look at AI as a tool which has a potential to be used for cheating or bypassing the regular curriculum, but they just need to embrace it. It's how kids are learning. It's what the technology they're using on their own time, and it's something which we should be encouraging and then guiding them towards the right uses of AI where they learn.
My name is Devin Phillips. I have been a Java developer for 15 years, 17 years, something like that. And I recently moved to the Netherlands and Europe and want to get more involved in the community. So JFall seemed, and NLJug seemed like a very good place to start.
Yeah, great community here in the Netherlands, a lot of jugs. Are you a jug speaker?
I have been a Jug speaker. I was also a Jug organizer when I lived in the United States. I ran the Java users group of Greater Louisville, or Juggle as we called it. And while it was a small community, it was a very tight community.
Yeah. And what's your topic, the main topic that you've been talking about?
Oh, I talk about so many. So probably one of my favorites of the last couple of years is contract first API development, using things like OpenAPI, gRPC, async API to design an API for your end users before you implement code, so you can validate it and do design thinking and have a better chance at doing domain-driven design.
Okay. REST, gRPC, what's the main difference? What's the advantage one above the other?
I don't know that there's necessarily an advantage to one over the other. It really comes down to the style of application that you're deploying. If your application is traditionally CRUD-based, then REST is probably very good. But if you're worried about asynchronicity and being able to implement things like CQRS, then maybe gRPC is a better choice. Or yeah.
I read a few things about async. Do we still need async implementations if we have virtual threads?
That also depends on who you ask. So I've seen a lot of people doing benchmarks and performance analyses. So I was actually just reading an article recently about Open Liberty, and they'd done extensive analysis of, do we continue using our thread pools as they exist, or do we switch to Java virtual threads? And so far, their performance analysis says that their typical traditional thread pool is better for now. Now, will that change as virtual threads evolve and mature? Probably. Yeah.
Virtual threads is one of those new things in Java.
Yeah.
How are you looking at the evolution of Java?
Oh, it's been fantastic the last few years, seeing the evolution accelerate in the Java community. So for a long time, we saw reactions to the stagnation in the Java world. So enterprise Java was so stagnant that Spring came about. And then even Spring has somewhat maybe stagnated a little bit, and so you're seeing responses like Helidon and Quarkus, and so it's very interesting to see that we're finally getting faster evolution. Brian and the JVM team have been doing a wonderful job of carefully analyzing new features and seeing what makes sense. I know it's frustrating to a lot of people that Java moves slowly, but move fast and break things when you run most of the enterprise internet is not a good thing.
Yeah, it's typical that you say careful and still evolving.
Yeah.
So they are really taking care of backwards compatibility, being ready for future features. What's the thing you're looking forward to that's in the pipeline?
Well, actually, the things that I was most looking forward to have already dropped. I mean, virtual threads was a big one. The ability to do records and record patterns and pattern matching. They've made my code so much clearer, so much easier to read, so much easier to implement, and I don't end up with these huge if-then-else trees that... they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And in 25, they dropped the ability to do pattern matching on primitives.
Yeah.
So now the whole gang is there, and you can do just these wonderful switch statements that are so easy to read, so easy to understand.
My name is François Martin, and I'm here at JFall because I'm a speaker and I'm giving a talk here.
Okay, and the talk is about?
So the talk is called "My Code is Faster Than Yours, Let Me Prove It to You." So it's essentially about showing how to do a micro benchmark with JMH. I just noticed there weren't that many talks on introductions on doing JMH micro benchmarks. And I've also noticed that a lot of people are really struggling to get into using JMH. Actually, just yesterday at the speakers dinner, I met someone who mentioned that for his talk, he prepared his first JMH micro benchmark. And I asked him how his experience was, because I was kind of curious, as a new person getting into it. And he said, oh, it was very painful. So I was thinking, yeah, that's exactly why I made my talk, right?
That's what you want to solve.
Correct.
What is JMH? Is it a tool? Is it a library you need to add to your code? How do you get started?
Sure. Yeah. So JMH is, I don't know, I think it's something between a library and a tool, I would say. I mean, it's a dependency you install, right? But it's something you use more as a tool. So when you get started, I mean, on the one hand, you can just watch my talk, there is a recording available. But I would say the easiest is to go to the README file of the JMH project. It's open source on GitHub. And then you read through it, and it shows you pretty much exactly how you can get started. It's like a Maven archetype command you can run, and then it will bootstrap the project for you. And then from there, you can write your own benchmarks.
Mm-hmm. And what is the main goal of such a benchmark? Is it finding blockers within your code or proving that your code really does what it should do within a certain time?
Well, it's actually kind of neither of them, I would say. It's showing if you have two different implementations that do the same thing, which one of those is faster?
Yeah.
So this is why the talk is called "My Code is Faster Than Yours. Let me prove it to you." Because the idea is, let's say you have two different implementations and you want to see which one is faster. You could use JMH for that to see, exactly. But if you want to find out where your blockers are, then you would use profiling for that. I always say profiling is what you do first to find your bottlenecks, and then as soon as you identified your bottlenecks, you're using JMH to then find out which implementation is the best to choose in a scenario to make sure that you can unblock your implementation.
Yeah. So it's not on production, it's not that you analyze results afterwards, it's really a tool during your development to finding out how this gets better.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Could you, for instance, also compare different versions of the runtime? If that has an impact on your performance?
Yes, definitely. That's a good point. Yeah. So in the talk, I also mentioned that you should make sure that you use the conditions that are very close to production as possible. And this is exactly for these reasons, because depending on the runtime you're using, on the Java version or whatever, you might have differences in the performance. So this is something, you could keep in mind if you feel like this could make a difference. Try out different JVMs, for example. Maybe try the Roald VM to see if that makes it faster. Maybe, totally. That is something you can measure as well.
Getting as close as possible to production, isn't that a big problem for all test cases, integration tests? It's an ideal scenario.
Yeah.
You test what's running in production, but isn't that very hard to set up in a lot of cases?
Well, I would say it depends. If you have a more classical setup where you're deploying just on a server that you control, it's usually a lot easier. But of course, with nowadays where you have Kubernetes and you deploy in a container and so on, it makes it a lot more difficult to make sure that it's close to that. But still, I just say try to keep it as close as you can. But of course, for example, use the same JVM, whatever. Maybe if you can get some similar hardware, or maybe, whatever you can do is making just the results a little bit better. But usually for most micro benchmarks that you're doing, those things don't affect results that much. It's just more if you want to really do like micro optimizations where this is especially necessary to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you see a lot of advantages of moving to the latest Java versions?
Well, do you mean for performance reasons or for other
performance,
reasons?
developer friendliness?
I'd say developer friendliness, definitely. I mean, there are so many nice features that we can now use. And I mean, performance, especially now with the move to Java 25, for example, with virtual threads that we can use for the first time since, the last LTS. This for sure also makes a big difference. And also virtual threads, of course, makes it a lot nicer to work with threads for Java developers, right? Mm-hmm. So I think on the other hand, and also with stream gatherers and things like this, you can also make sure that your performance can be better in your application. Mm-hmm. So definitely yes for this, but I wouldn't say that just by switching, by updating from 21, for example, to 25, that your application will be, that much faster, unless, of course, you're making use of virtual threads and those things. Yeah.
Is virtual threads one of the most important changes for you?
I would say yes, because this has been a change that's been long coming, right? We have been long waiting for this change, but I think so. This is, I think, a pretty big change, and it's something that makes it a lot, easier to just, get a lot of things, done in parallel, and having just a simple replacement essentially. If your code, doesn't do if you didn't use threads in a very low level way, it makes it, very easy to change to them as well, which is really nice.
My name is Wouter Wouter De Geus, and what brings me to JFall is really learning new things, meeting new and former colleagues, and just enjoying the nice vibe.
Okay, and I guess you're a Java developer.
Absolutely, yes, I'm a Java developer.
Since version?
A long time ago, I actually was not I've not been started like a typical IT as an IT person. I actually did more in finance and mathematics. But with the introduction of back then the iPad even and the iPhone, I was just amazed by what the new technology. Wanted to learn it, so I taught a lot of it myself. And I started with doing Java. First as a hobby, and that became just evening and weekend work. And then I decided to switch my career to a full Java developer.
Okay, you have a financial background, a developer. You work at the Nederlandse Belastingdienst.
The Dutch revenue, the Belastingdienst, yes.
Tax office. Can you combine your financial knowledge still with your programming there?
Yes, absolutely, because it has always been valuable to have kind of been both, like having a domain knowledge of finance and tax, as well as an IT mindset. It really helps bridging the gaps which are typically perceived between the two domains. And yes, I can definitely do that and leverage on that in my current job.
Yeah. Are you following also what's happening within Java releases and all the new features, or is that what you want to learn here?
Both, yes, I am following that. It's also that within my current employer, we do have a thing called a vakgroep, so it actually tries to stay on top of the latest developments. And for that, I also, for example, follow this podcast to stay abreast of the latest developments. Yes.
Yeah. Can you already use some of these 21, 25 features in your day job?
Well, the 25, I would say, is a bit too recent, to be honest, but definitely the 21st LTS release. But the 25, I'm doing kind of for pet projects.
Yeah. Within the company you work for, or the government institution, you have a big group of Java developers?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Dutch tax revenue is one of the biggest employers in terms of Java. So a lot of Java software which is operated. So yeah, indeed.
Which is great as a Java lover to see that this is really the language running a lot of companies, but also running the government.
Yeah, to a certain extent, of course, because the Dutch tax revenue, and I take it for the entire government, operates many different languages. I think for the Dutch tax revenue, Java is a big component of all the solutions that we have, but even more legacy systems, which are COBOL based, for example, we also still have them.
I see that you are even some kind of sponsor of these events, or you contribute to the app. Or you work together on the app, correctly?
My employer actually did develop this app. I haven't, I don't know these precise persons who did develop them, but apparently we do assist these kind of venues and support them. And I think that's great because it's. I think there is a good alignment between what the Java community wants. It's open source. It's all atmosphere of collaboration, and of course as a societal body, the Dutch government. Of course, it's also good to support it, I think. And even I know that certain developers sometimes do commit back and give back to the community, so to the open source community.
The true spirit of open source.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And it's nice to see that you as a government can contribute to open source, because in a lot of companies it's not allowed, or the time is only limited to real company work. Contributing back to open source is in most cases not supported by the company.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's I think what makes it in that sense like beneficial or an add-on, or compared to commercially, where you always have at least I also work with commercial companies. You always have this kind of implicit pressure that you always have to be accountable for the hours that you are spending on, and of course you have it now as well. But it's let's say it's more aligned with the community, and that you can. Perhaps easier, allow yourself to also spend your time on things that also contribute not only your employer immediately, but also the community in a broader sense.
because a lot of the companies benefit from the open source, but they forget that someone has to build it and maintain it.
Absolutely, yes. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. That is a nice economic quote.
Yeah,
yes.
indeed. What are you looking forward from the other talks today?
Well, learn two things. For example, the FFM API, for example. I'd like to know more and see whether that would be a nice thing to integrate with a thing that I know from the past called QuantLib. That's a C-based mathematical finance library, and to see whether that would be kind of it can be nicely integrated with Java, and and many other things, and also just pick a session which I don't know nothing about and just learn. And that's the great thing about these venues. It's also typically you tend to click on a video or something you are interested in, but here it's like you're walking around and you get to know new persons and new topics, new technologies.
Or end up in a podcast.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm Roald Nefs, CTO at WordNet, and what brings me to JFall? Went to JFall last year. It was such an amazing community, so I had to come up with a talk to make a reason to come here for the second time.
And the talk was about?
Automotive security.
Okay.
So I'm somewhat of a security specialist myself, by no means a Java developer, but I found a way to hack cars using Java.
Okay, how did you do that?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. There are so many ways to hack cars, and in this case I exploited the keyless entry system and the CAN bus in the car itself using some hardware tools, and I interface with the hardware tools using Java.
Okay, and these hardware tools, so in cars, you have this chain of blocks, correct, of all the computers which are inside the car?
Exactly. You have like these electronic control units, the ECUs in a car, which communicate with each other to make the car drive in a way we want it to drive. And all those nodes on this network communicate with each other. And I am using tools to interface with this bus, this control area network, so it's called, and to be able to interact with it.
Yeah. I heard that in each car, modern car, there is over millions of rows of code in all these blocks.
Yeah.
Didn't it become all too complicated?
So you imagine like my current car now consists of about 70 computers, ECUs. Some are quite simple, like small microcontrollers, and others are fully fledged computers. And they have to find a way to communicate with each other, so they're using most of the same protocols. And it becomes quite complex, but for me it's like an area where you can keep discovering new things.
Yeah. And as they say, security is limited by the weakest link. Is it easy to find a way in, as you did?
The funny thing about doing things on the hardware security side is that there are many people who already discovered weak links. But in software, we're used to being able to patch your software. But in cars, it's quite hard to patch hardware. So using the research by others, you can quickly get an idea on how to approach projects like this. And there are many hobby projects to come to discover your own vulnerabilities. But the hardest part is just interfacing with the car. The moment you're in, it's like you have all those research projects you can just copy and paste. Yeah.
And what did you hack, or what did you do wrong with the car?
So the first step, or the first case, is being able to access the car by exploiting something called the roll jam attack. So when a user presses the key fob of a car, it sends a radio signal towards the car. And by stealing those codes and making sure they aren't able to reach the car, we can use them at a later moment to still open the car without the user noticing it. So then you're in the car. That's step one. And step two is to find a way to communicate with those computers in the car. And in this case, we are going to exploit the CAN bus. and I show in my presentation how you can read the signals, so you can see what the actual is being sent on the bus itself, but also spoof messages yourself. And in this case, the example is by spoofing messages toward the instrument cluster. We can let the instrument cluster think it's in a car, and we can rev the motor without it being in an actual car.
Okay. Is it dangerous? Can I do something wrong with my car that way?
Yeah, for sure. If you dive into automotive security, you will find that most of those researchers try things on their own car, and they all have stories about breaking their car. You will also find ways of breaking the law. For example, in automotive, it's quite important to have like the odometer of a car only go up, but there are ways you can exploit things so you can actually break the law. But I think that's not only limited to car hacking, that's limited
all hacking.
That's to all hacking. Yeah.
Do you do your experiments on your own car?
That's a funny question. I'm supposed to do them on my own car, but I use my wife's car. And there's a reason for it. I do not own a car myself. I lease a car, so it's not mine. I'm not allowed to test on it. And my wife does happen to own a car, nice Seat Ibiza, but I limit the test cases on the actual car. I know for sure that are quite safe to test. And what I do instead is buy components out of eBay, for example, so I can do it on a lab setup on my desk.
This is your job?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
I myself am CTO at a cybersecurity company, but we do focus on IT security. But I find it quite interesting to bring stories out of the hardware hacking scene towards IT, because it's a nice way of showing people why it's important to do IT security stuff without telling them their software is ugly.
You said you're not a Java developer yourself.
Yeah.
What do you learn from a conference like this?
The way Java developers think, because I'm not a developer myself, but I do work at clients where we have like big DevOps teams and they mainly use Java. And I think it's important to learn what are the current frameworks, language we're using, so we can use that in the examples we are trying to show on how important security actually is, without being outdated, without using the wrong examples, and especially me being able to show that I, without being a Java developer, can use Java to hack cars. I know that we have like a whole conference full of people who are more skilled in Java and should be able to also push that part of the community a little bit further.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Foojay Podcast. A huge thank you to my guests for sharing their expertise and passion for OpenJDK. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the Foojay Podcast on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. You can find all our episodes, show notes and links to the resources mentioned today on foojay.io. And don't forget to follow Friends of OpenJDK on social media for the latest news and updates from the Java community. Until next time, keep coding, keep learning and stay curious. Thanks for listening.
Give me a foo, give me a J, give me the Friends of OpenJDK.